Okay, so I've started recording and went ahead and turned tones off. That way it'll be quieter. But so anyway, so yeah, welcome to this full moon Capricorn and Capricorn call. So we've already been talking about a couple questions, so I went ahead and start recording. So when I answer some of these questions here, yes. So one of the questions was about the 777 energy and the portals. I mean, all these portals are encoded. They're all light encoded. The energy that comes in, is very. It's meant for those particular moments of time, based on where we are in the group soul progression. So we've always had them. I mean, it's not like they're ever different. The thing about these energies this particular year in 2025 is the fact that we've got, this Uranus-Neptune, not Uranus, Saturn-Neptune have both come into Aries at the beginning, setting us up with this new perception of reality. And, Saturn's a 29, 30-year planet, and Neptune is 160. The other thing that's happening is Uranus has just gone into Gemini. That's an 84-year transit. So you've got big players. All the outer planets are shifting right here around the same time. And Jupiter going into, I guess it's Cancer. Oh, my memory is just so crazy with this energy. So everything is shifting. And Pluto, of course, has been retrograde back into, he stays in Aquarius. He does not go back into Capricorn anymore. But that's part of the transformative part is Pluto. So it's like the point is that all these energies are in very new places. So these portals are able to give us energies that we've not had access to before, theoretically. And when I feel into it, I think that's really true. And the frequencies of those energies are very different. I forgot to do the silencing part. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to articulate before I go into just the silent part? Okay. That way we don't have the background noise. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do it then. Okay. So I've muted everybody. So we really are in a very different dynamic, and it has to do with frequency. Everything is always frequency. So as we continue to awaken internally, that's happening on atomic and subatomic levels, and the portals themselves are coded to almost be like a time release opening that work with our souls, and nothing can really open for us until our heart and soul comes into an alignment that allows for the activation. It does not mean that everyone's not getting the energy. If you're here and you're embodied, no one is left out. The awakened energy is all around us. It's basically the adamantine particles. We are awakening the atom, cadmium body. All these things are always happening. At the same time, because everyone is still in free will choice, if they're still stuck in lower timelines and either not able to make conscious choices to shift out of the old 3D reality, but they're staying in cause-effect reality, then they're going to be in a place where it's, I think, more difficult to make the jump, because it still has to be conscious free will choice. You cannot drag someone kicking and kicking and screaming into an enlightened state. Every single human has to step into this or not. So as people are in that frequency and they continue to allow themselves to become more immersed in oneness, not that you're never not in oneness, but as you continually allow yourself to be informed by the oneness and led as as a soul journey at that point, because you're releasing, the internal mind. You're releasing that part, the egoic self that wants to control and manipulate your experiences and what you think, you want to do. There's the personal you, and then of course there's the big you, and the big you is the that aspect of God, the divine part that wants to be here and express itself in its highest potentiality. And it puts us in a very confusing place, because we are trying to figure out who we are in the highest capacity. At the same time, the dark still has all these tentacles around us that are attempting to pull us into and take us out of our divine expression. And I don't usually do this, but actually I'm trying, before I even do that, I'm trying to remember if I answered the last thing. We talked about the 777. Okay, I'm gonna unmute, so whoever could tell me what it was. I forgot the question. Hold it. Okay, I'm unmuted. What was the last question one of y'all asked me after the 777? What was it, you, Doreen, or Louise?
No, I think it was Louise.
It was a good question. I was going to go into this, and I don't remember what it was. My brain's gone.
No, this is Louise, and I asked the 7-7 question. So it wasn't me, it was somebody before me.
Yeah, you were the 777. I just want to make
Right.
sure that I answered that question, because it was a good lead-in for this, and I wanted to get it on the recording. Oh, God. See, if I don't write something down, it's gone. And this is part of what we're going into. It's immediacy. So if you don't answer something or address something immediately, it's like gone. It just ceases to exist, unless whoever had brought it up can remember what it was. I just don't remember which one of you had brought the question. Gosh. Oh, this is maddening. Okay, well, if it's meant to come back up, it will come back up. Or you can text me if you think of what the question was. But whoever it was, I told you that was a very, very good thing, and I wanted to go there. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to remute and then go back into this. Oh, shoot. Okay, we've gone back into the mute part. But I mean, that's what's so bizarre about this. And the other thing that's kind of taking us into the communication part of this, and this is actually a perfect example. I mean, Mercury, we're in the Mercury retrograde shadow. And so that's always 2 weeks before it starts. And then, of course, 2 weeks after. And the retrograde period lasts for about, 3 weeks. Actually, let me pull up the astrological chart so I can see where the Mercury is and what's happening. Yeah, so Mercury retrograde actually happens on July the 18th, but it's just now started going into that. Yeah, and it's in Leo. So, yeah, I mean, as we're, we've got all these outer planets that are either in retrograde or going retrograde. So it's taking us in on the big outer stage. But Mercury is going to go in for that inner communication, but also as a collective community group. And by the time, I didn't realize this either. By the time we get to the new moon on July the 24th, that moon is going to be at 1 Leo. And this retrograde is happening right before that moon. Oh, shoot. I hit the wrong button. Let me go back to that. Leo, where you at? Okay. Yeah, so this retrograde is happening in Leo, and it actually goes retrograde on the 18th at 15 degrees of Leo. But Mercury is going to go back retrograde to where that next moon coming up on July 24th is going to be. It's at new moon in Leo, and I've got it at 1 degree, I think, unless it's 0 degrees. And so the Mercury, as far as a communication issue, is going to be very active because it's going to go back and it's going to go direct at about 5 degrees Leo, which is almost all the way back to where that new moon is going to be on July the 24th. It's going to be back there, or Mercury goes direct on August the 11th. So there's the communication part of ourselves is in the Leo. It's that part that wants to express itself as a big lion. It wants to roar. It wants to do all these things. But it's going to be more of an inward journey and reflection because all the rewords is about, going in. It's an internal journey. And I'm seeing here as Mercury goes retrograde, it's going to retrograde over Waldemuth Lilith. It's going to go over that moon on the 25th of July. It's also going to go over some fates. It's going to go over the Gregory asteroid, the Judith asteroid. Oh, Judith would be involved. Oh, this is going to go over the John asteroid before turning direct. Oh, that is so funny. And I put the asteroids in on purpose for a few key people. I put Pam Gregory, Judith Linden, Was everybody able to hear me?
No, I wasn't.
No,
it was like bum bum bum. Yeah, it was like
No, it was
just heard like little notes, but nothing clear.
Okay. Wendy just said my connection was bad too, and you couldn't hear me. That's weird. The
last I heard it was you talked about Pam Gregory and then Judith, and then you kind of went away.
Yeah, you said Mercury retrograde was on the 25th, and that's it. Yeah. From what I heard.
Hello, Mercury retrograde activating for this call. That's so funny.
That's what I was laughing about. Oh, communication. This is a prelude to what we're going to get.
It never fails. I'm telling you. And I literally did nothing different on the phone. I was thinking because I've never unmuted everybody, from lecture mode and then muted back again. I thought maybe I did it wrong, and I've been talking this whole time. Nobody heard me. So I'm glad you spoke up. Okay, so I'm gonna. Oh, but at least you heard the asteroids. That means you did hear me after I did the mute. Okay, I'm gonna try it again, and we're gonna. I mean, if you don't hear me like in the next, 10, 15 seconds, just go ahead and message me again on text. We're gonna try this again. Okay, so here we are. So I've muted everybody and hope it didn't mute me. Does anybody want to text me and let me know? Wendy, you mentioned you could. Okay, Wendy's texting here. Hopefully she's hearing me. You're good. Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, that's so bizarre. Mercury retrograde. He's got to show us that he's hearing controlling. Okay. At least I know that we're good here. Okay, back to our regular scheduled program. Where was I? Okay, so let me move the meeting call down. Okay, this is always funny. The attendees for the meeting, and it does this every time we do it, for some 13 of us attending this call, we can't, it just never fails. It's so funny, which is a Christic awareness. I'm starting to get a remembrance of what we were talking about that I was supposed to answer, I thought, and it's just gone again. Oh, well, it'll come back around. All right, what was I going to say? Okay, I had the spreadsheet open. Okay, so that's Mercury retrograde, which is coming up. Gosh, this is very indicative of this energy right now. It's very scatterbrained. It's very challenging. There's so much happening right now. This full moon is also, it's at 18 Capricorn. My natal moon is at 15 Capricorn, so I'm feeling it, I guess, from an emotional level. It certainly is right there with me, for sure. Okay, I'm going to jump off this astrology for a little bit because I was going to do something that I don't normally do. But there were a couple of things I read last night that were just really, really, really pertinent. And I read them after I'd sent the email. So I need to find them and resend them. But they give a couple different perspectives on some things, and I thought everybody really needs to hear these on the call tonight. So not to have to read to you, so this won't be channeled. I'm reading something from someone else, but it really is pertinent, I think, for a reflection of where we're at. And I think it's a couple of these things are going to answer some stuff for some of you. So one thing was a post on Facebook, and it was a little girl that said she was 14 years old, and so it was a story about a death experience. But it really gives a lot of perspective that I think is worth, and I did share this on Facebook, so if you've checked any of my stuff on Facebook, you may have seen it and read it already. But anyway, I'm going to read this because it's just so sombering, especially with what's happening with our conditioning. And I've talked about our conditioning, with our society for a long time, and this really just hits home, especially with social media. So just bear with me as you go through this. But she says, "My name is Madison Taylor Brooks. I'm 14 years old, and on October 17th, I died for 12 minutes when our car flipped 3 times on Highway 29. She said, I was in the back seat scrolling through TikTok, barely paying attention to Mom driving me to volleyball practice. My little brother Tyler was playing his Nintendo Switch next to me. The rain was coming down so hard my mom kept asking me to look up for directions because she couldn't see the exit. I remember being annoyed because I was right in the middle of watching this dance trend video. I didn't look up." She said, "Then it happened. The semi-truck came out of nowhere. Mom screamed. Tyler dropped his game. My phone flew out of my hands as our SUV spun across 3 lanes. I remember the sound of metal crashing and glass breaking. Then nothing." She says, "But then I was floating above our car. I could not see the ambulance light flashing. People were running around below me." Oh, she could see the ambulance light flashing. People were running around below her, rain pouring, but she couldn't feel it. They pulled the body out of the wreckage. My favorite blue shorts were torn. My face was covered in blood. On a crying being held back by a firefighter. I was already in the air. I tried to yell, "Mom, I'm okay right here," but she couldn't hear me. Everything got really bright. And once it put the highway on, it all hid away. I felt myself being pulled through like I was in a tunnel of light. It wasn't scary. It felt warm. Like when you stand in the sunlight, I'm breaking up. I'm going to hold the phone up higher. Let me know if it helps. Just a bad cell connection. If it has, log out, pop back in. then she says, it wasn't scary. And then when you stand in the sunlight the first summer day, and she says, that's when I saw him. Is it still breaking up, Wendy? Can you still hear me, Wendy? Okay, I'm going to try something. Okay. Andrea said doing it again. All right, I'm going to... Okay, I've unmuted. I'm going to hang up, and I'm going to call back into the call and see if that helps. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, am I clearer?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay, maybe it's just a weird signal. I mean, that's the other thing. All this solar stuff is breaking apart our atmosphere, and I think it's breaking apart all of the digital signaling that's in the field. That's another place I was going to go into too. There's so much happening right now. Okay, I'm going to go back into the mode, and we're going to see. Let me know if I break up again. Okay, so here we go. It broke up from Amy. That's part of the story. Okay, all right. So we're going to try this again. Anyway, so she said that everything got really bright. The ambulances were on the highway. Mom, she said it all faded away, and she felt herself being pulled through what she felt like a tunnel, through a tunnel of light. She said it was not scary. It felt warm, like when you stand in the sunlight in the first day of summer. And she says, that's when I saw him. And she says Jesus was standing there. She said he was nothing like in the pictures of Sunday school. Said he was, I don't even have words. Light poured from him, but somehow I could still see his face. His eyes, they still looked right through me, like he knew every thought that I'd ever had. Every mean text I'd ever sent, every TikTok video I ever posted, but he still loved me completely. When he smiled at me, I felt like I was at home, really home. Not like our house back in Oak Ridge, something deeper. And said Madison. He said my name, and it sounded like music. His voice wasn't loud, but it filled everything. So that would be more like immediacy. So she says she started crying, not sad tears. She just didn't know how to explain it. She just felt everything all at once. All the love she'd ever wanted and all the peace that she never knew she needed. She says, I'm dead. Am I dead? I asked him. For a little while, he said, but I have something to show you first, something important. He reached out his hand, and when I took it, suddenly we were somewhere else. It looked like a giant room with thousands of screens floating in the air. On each screen, I could see kids my age, some younger, some older, all staring down at their phones or tablets or computers. And what is this? I asked. Jesus looked sad. This is what I see every day. These are the children that I love, but they cannot hear me anymore. As we walked through the room, I could see closer. Each screen showed someone like me, hunched over, scrolling mindlessly. Their eyes looked empty. But the weird thing was, around each person there were these shadows, dark figures that whispered things into their ears. What are those? I whispered, moving closer to Jesus. The enemy's workers, he said. They speak lies through the screens. He brought me to one screen where a girl about my age was crying while scrolling through Instagram. Around her neck was what looked like a heavy chain, and at the end was her phone. The shadows were putting more links on the chain with every swipe of her finger. Her name is Emma, Jesus said. She believes she is worthless because she doesn't look like all the filtered images she sees. She spends 6 hours every day comparing herself to lies. I felt sick because that was me too. I remembered crying in my bedroom because Kylie posted pictures of her birthday party and I wasn't invited to go. I'd spent 3 hours that night scrolling through everyone's perfect lives, feeling worse and worse. Jesus touched the screen and I could hear Emma's thoughts. Nobody would care if I wasn't here anymore. Look how happy everyone is. But that's not true, I said, and people would care. And Jesus said, you understand, quietly. But she cannot hear the truth anymore. The voices from the screen are too loud. We moved to another screen. A boy, maybe 12, was playing a violent game. With each kill in the game, the shadows around him grew bigger and bigger. He looked pale with dark circles under his eyes. He hasn't slept more than 4 hours a night for 3 years, Jesus said. The games were designed to keep him there, to keep him needing them. His parents don't know he's playing until 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. every night. His anger is growing. His ability to feel compassion is shrinking. I thought about Tyler and how he'd thrown his controller at me last week when Mom made me turn off his game for dinner. Jesus showed me more screens. Kids sending cruel messages to classmates while laughing. Girls taking inappropriate pictures to get attention. Boys watching violent and sexual content that made the shadows around them dance with glee. Everywhere, phones and tablets glowed like little prisons. Madison, Jesus said, turning to me, do you know how many hours you've spent looking at the screen in your life? I shook my head. He waved his hand and saw what looked like an hourglass. But instead of sand, it was filled with the moments of my life, moments I would never get back. I saw myself sitting on the couch while my grandma tried to tell me stories about her childhood, but I was watching YouTube. I saw hundreds of sunsets I'd missed because I was taking selfies instead of actually looking at them. I saw myself ignoring my brother when he wanted to play because I couldn't pause my TikTok scrolling. 8,422 hours, Jesus said quietly. That's how much of your life was given to the screen. I did the math in my head, and that was over a year of my life gone. But everyone does it, I whispered, feeling ashamed. Yes, Jesus said, and that's why I showed you all of this. The enemy has found a way into every home, every bedroom, every mind without anyone noticing. Parents give their children these devices without understanding they're handing them poison in small addictive doses. Then Jesus showed me something that broke my heart. He showed me hundreds of moments where he had tried to speak to me when I was alone in my room or walking to school or lying in bed at night, times when his presence was there when he wanted to comfort me or guide me. But every single time I'd reached for my phone instead. I'd chosen the noise over his voice. The greatest trick, Jesus said, was making everyone believe they're connected when they're actually more alone than ever. Tears were streaming down my face now. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't know. Jesus put his arm around me. This is why you're seeing this, Madison, because others need to know. Then he showed me one more scene. It was in my living room, but different. My family was playing a board game, no phones in sight. Everyone was laughing. Outside it was raining, just like the day of the accident. But inside it was warm and bright. I could almost smell my mom's cookies baking. This could have been tonight, Jesus said softly, if the phones had been put away. My heart felt like it was breaking. I never realized how much I missed by staring at a screen. Madison, Jesus said, your time isn't finished. You have an important message to share, but I don't want to go back. I said I meant. Being with him felt so good, just right there. I want to know that the family and I need to hear what you think. So he said, and that's just like changing things. He touched my forehead, and suddenly I began to be pulled back away from his light, through the tunnel again, faster and faster. The pain, so much pain. Beeping machines, bright hospital lights, someone yelling, she's back, we've got a pulse. I gasped for air, my chest burning like a swallowed fire. My whole body hurt. I couldn't even move my left leg. There was a tube down my throat. Doctors called it a miracle. They said my heart stopped for 12 minutes. They said I could have brain damage. All the tests came back normal. They couldn't explain it. Mom cried for 3 days straight. Dad said, who had been away for a business trip, refused to leave the hospital after he arrived. Tyler made me a card that said, best sister ever, even though I'd been pretty mean to him lately. When they finally took the breathing tube out, the first thing I said was, where is my phone? Mom looked surprised, says, honey, it was destroyed in the crash. And I started crying, not because I missed my phone, but because I was relieved it was gone. It took weeks before I could then tell them anything I had seen. At first I was afraid they wouldn't believe me, but something had changed in me and they could see it. The first night I came home from the hospital, I asked everyone to put their phones in a basket. Then I told them about Jesus, about the screens, about the shadows and the moments we'd lost. I told them how the devices we think keep us connected are actually tearing us apart. Dad cried like I've never seen him cry before. That was 6 months ago. Our house is completely different now. We have a phone box and all the devices go in during family time. We started playing board games on Friday nights. Mom deleted most of her social apps. Dad stopped bringing his laptop from work. Tyler still plays his games, but with a timer, and mostly ones we play together. The hardest part was going back to school and telling my friends. Some of them thought I was weird now. Some stopped hanging out with me because I wouldn't spend time scrolling with them through TikTok anymore. But some listened. My best friend Zoe deleted Snapchat. I'm going to just kind of skip through parts of this because it's a little longer, but talks about how habit the strong is. But Jesus told me the enemy can't create anything. He can only distort what God made. He took our need for connection and twisted it into something that actually isolates us. He took our desire to be known and loved and convince us that likes and followers could fill that hole. They can't, they never will. I know some people that won't believe my story, that's okay. But if you're a parent watching this, please hear me. Your kids need to be brave. They need to set boundaries they can't set for themselves. And they need you to create space where God's voice can be louder than the screens. If you're my age and watching this, know that you're worth more than your follower count. The filtered, perfect lives you see online aren't real. The shadows want you to believe you're missing out. But the truth is, real life is happening right now all around you. And Jesus is trying to get your attention. Maybe this video is his way of doing that. She says, I don't have all the answers. I'm just a 14-year-old girl who died for 12 minutes and came back different. But I know what I saw and I know what I felt, and I know we can't keep living life like this. Heads down, thumb scrolling, hearts empty. Put your phone down and look up. Because the truth is, none of us know how much time we have left, and I don't want to waste another second of mine on shadows and screens. My name is Madison Taylor Brooks. I died on October 17th, and Jesus sent me back to tell you this. So I know that's a bit long, and thanks for taking the patience to listen to it, but that's one example of how things in our external world take our attention away from our internal connection to Spirit. And when I was reading the comments on it, everyone just said they were crying, they were bawling, they were doing this, they were just very deeply shifted and emotionally just moved by what they had read. And I mean, it certainly hit me too. The other interesting thing with that was I had just my own, I guess, recall of my own sister who passed away in 2002 from a jet ski accident. And she was laying there basically brain dead with a brainstem injury. And we had to make the decision to take her off life support. And it kept making me wonder, well, why did my sister's soul not go through such a thing where maybe she just needed to wake up and then, she could be brought back? And, of course, it takes you down that rabbit hole where you just never know with these things. But for whatever reason, my sister's life path was different from this young lady's, and she chose to be taken out at an earlier part of life. And we never understand the bigger picture of these things. I don't remember if I've ever gone into that particular story with regard to my sister, but we all go through these things with family dynamics. They're just unique. But this is where we go into multidimensional awareness if we get out of the way. We can be taken into the vast dynamic of greater soul journey lessons that we have to learn with our soul groups, our parents, siblings, things like that. Deeper esoteric people and teachings will tell you that, when we're up on the cloud, we choose to come into a physical incarnation, that we make a decision, for everything. We choose our parents, we choose things we want to experience in life, we choose, the siblings. Everything is pre-chosen as far as most of those things. But we still have free will choice, within the context of when we're here and, living life from moment to moment. Every nanosecond, we're affecting the change. The main thing is to be able to step away from things that draw us in to take us down either a dark path or some set of circumstances that keep us asleep. For many humans right now, it's telephones. And I haven't Googled lately to find out how many humans have phones in front of their faces. But there's a lot of them. I mean, we don't think about the hours we spend scrolling and searching and trying to answer questions by looking at the external world, basically the phone. And then when you do look for something and you read, what people either say or, suggest is truth or whatever the answer is you're looking for, then you have to ascertain whether or not that's really true, or is it only true for them and their particular experience. And I bring this up I guess spirits have me bring it up for this part, I'm told, for this point. So now we have the introduction, which it's actually already been there, we just haven't been aware of it, of artificial intelligence. That has already been in the internet. It's already been massaging our reality, what's real, what's not real. It's already been answering questions for us. It's already been suggesting material. When you go on a search engine, you search for something, you get constant suggestions. Oh, look at this, look at this. Oh, here's an answer for this. Oh, I heard you, talking on your phone, through your phone. You didn't search for it, but I knew you were thinking about it. So here's a bunch of products that you want to buy. It's like, at what point is the artificial matrix really coming in and taking over our lives? And it's such an important thing for us to go into and observe right now. The Spirit wants that really made clear to me, to bring it up to you, not to give you advice on what to do or how to handle it, but to just be aware. And like she talks about, I do think this is absolutely true. And I've mentioned this before. Judith has always mentioned this before too. There's always entities out there. This is part of the multidimensional, awareness, but most people have no clue. But when you are not in total union and communion with Spirit, you can allow other beings, entities, whatever else, to attach themselves to you and start to steer you in your human choices, in your human expression, and we don't have any clue that's happening. This is the astral realm. It's places where you have souls that are stuck. You have really just nasty, dark entities that are basically conjured up through satanic worship, through people you're involved with. And again, all of this is it's how we're navigating our world in multidimensional expression. But we're not taught that in school. We're not taught that in religion, which is supposed to be our spiritual guidance, but that's a joke. Religion was only, created to control us in truth. But when you look at all of this in a bigger picture, it gives you pause, for what's real and what's not real, and what do we really want? And so anyway, that was one reason I wanted to kind of read that to you, just to give a perspective of how AI is and cell phones, all that, our technologies have really taken us over, and we're unaware of it. I mean, I'm way guilty of it too. I mean, you get on Facebook and you scroll and scroll and scroll. And all of that is reflective of this particular retrograde that we're going through in Mercury. Also because Saturn and Neptune are both going to be going retrograde back into Pisces. And it's also part of, the Spirit's been explaining this to me, and I've mentioned this before, that we've been in a place, and this isn't just a certain particular time, but we're in a time period, and I think we've already been playing with it, but this is going to really take us into it. This is the individual and collective Bardo state. The Bardo state, again, is when we have to go back and recapitulate life. We're doing it because Saturn and Neptune came into Aries, activating a new dream. But when they retrograde back into Pisces, they're going to take us back into our old life, into the old life choices, for one last review. This is individual and collective. This is a big deal. And what that's going to do is take us basically through, we're going to be living out a Bardo state. I don't know, this doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think for some people it's going to be very challenging. I also think we're going to have to feel the energy. For instance, like when the little girl said that she felt all the, every text she had ever sent out that was bad or mean, every feeling, every thought. She was in the Bardo state. It was a quick Bardo state because she didn't have to go recapitulate life, but it was nonetheless a Bardo state or a partial. And so, but that's what it's like in the immediacy. When you go into the immediacy, there's no separation. So you have to go back and feel every single thing you've ever created, not just in this lifetime, but every lifetime. She didn't mention previous lifetimes, but she talked about this one. And that's why I say it was a partial Bardo state. But it gave her pause. It gave her time for reflection. Now, I don't know that she really wrote that. There was a she that did. Someone could have wrote that as an author and had a very deep understanding of spiritual awareness, and just it could have been someone just writing it. It doesn't matter who wrote it or how or what. I mean, I do think it probably happened because we do have life and death experiences where people come back and say these things. I have a feeling it's an accurate portrayal, but also what she talks about with the dark spirits hanging on to us. That's one of the things. If you've ever done personal sessions with Judith, that she did have to go in and clear. I'm sure every one of us. I mean, I certainly had. She worked on these things with me, and I'm sure each of you had your own experiences with these. There are entities that attempt to pull us down. They keep us stuck in deep 3D decision-making, into lower feelings, not higher expression. There's so many ways that we get sidetracked, and not necessarily by our own making. But the level of those experiences we have to go through is already kind of predetermined in the soul contract when we come back here. These are all things that we have to shift and go through to clear out the old residue. It's clearing out the old karma. I mean, everything we've got in the world we're getting back. And I'm stating it for this reason. No matter what your life brings you as far as circumstances, so things that you think are beyond your control, you may say, oh, well, this came up, this happened, oh, and I had to make some choices, go through it. You've already co-created it. Everything that's happening, there's no separation. And nothing is ever separate from you. And I think that's one of the most difficult things that we have to learn in this lifetime, is that we think we're some sort of victim, that some awful thing's happening to us is challenging. No. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to go through clearing. We're going to go through sicknesses. We may go through purges. I mean, like right now, I've got purging going through the skin. I mean, I've got skin breakouts a couple places. I'm like, seriously? Part of that is because I'm going through I just went through a 7-day detox with that Stephen Cabral program, which is absolutely a wonderful thing. I mean, I saw 186 pounds on the scale. I've not been in the 180s in 2 or 3 years. But it lets you do it in a safe way. So all of this time period is leading us into a place of rethinking and reevaluating every single nanosecond of what we've done. And I think that's going to be articulated in some of the astrology that I sent in the email last night, this morning, whenever it was. I mean, I glanced through a couple of things, but I did not read the bulk of what I sent. I just got the people that I normally send, so you guys can have some material to go through. But the way this all speaks to me is the previous moon call we had was a new moon in Cancer. And that was, all, if you remember, all about our emotional body, taking us deep into the way we feel about things, an emotional, recapitulation. This full moon in Capricorn is about grounding. It's about structures. It's about, now that we've gone into the feeling mode, 2 weeks ago, this moon is going to be about, full moons are always about releasing. It's going to shine light on anything that doesn't belong with you anymore. And now that you're going to have all of these out of, the big activations, that are changing, with Saturn and Neptune about to go retrograde, Mercury's going to go retrograde, coming before the next moon. So in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have that, but we're in the shadow. So you're already to all levels of communication. You've already felt into with the moon and Cancer. This moon is taking into structure. It's kind of like, and this again part of the mistake, I feel like specifying, where we felt into the last moon. This moon we're going to be going through with your heart. You're going to feel those as far as everything in life. I don't care what it is. People, places, entities, concepts, beliefs, system, religion, everything up for grabs. The reason everything up for grabs, I'm breaking up again. Oh, gosh, I guess it's like Mercury retrograde. I mean, we're in the retrograde. I guess I won't be talking a lot tonight, but the main thing is Saturn and Neptune going back into Pisces is taking us back into the old life, and that's going to be going on through the end of this year. And that's the main thing I wanted to get into, is knowing that we're going to be going through this whole process of life recapitulation is basically what it is. Mercury retrograde is taking us into it as a communication, but the communication isn't necessarily us communicating with other people. I think it's an internal communication of us, between us and spirit. That's why I say this is going to feel more like a bardo state. Okay, I'm going to ask Wendy, am I hearing any better now? Am I sounding better? Because it's like when we're in a bardo state, we're oh good, I'm glad it's cleared up. I don't know what's going on with this. But when you're in a bardo state, everything is immediate. You remember how the little girl explained that when she was with Jesus, he could feel literally the entirety of her life. That's immediacy. That's what Judith's always explained to us as immediacy. It's what anyone that's ever gone into the immediacy, there's no separation. And so the little girl got to understand what that is. She was in the immediacy before she came back here into the perceived separation, of her life. And her soul was forever changed. And I think as she goes through a soul progression, she will probably advance very quickly because of the profound, being taken in with Yeshua as a master and feeling into that. I mean, you can't take that into your soul and never go backwards. People talk about that with awakeness. Once you go into awakeness, you don't go back to sleep. You can't. It doesn't mean you won't hiccup down the road, or you may try to turn the faucet off, for awakening. But you can't. It never goes away. So, anyway, all of that is the reason why I feel like the rest of this year going into next year is the bardo state, is us going to meet ourselves as God. It's spirit basically reflecting to us all the places where we still need to address something consciously or unconsciously. It really is a big deal. I mean, and the fact that little girl's thing came across, I was like, whoa! I didn't know how I was going to articulate and discuss it tonight, but there it is. So yeah. Okay, so that was one of the things that came up. There was another one that I read that, and I hate to read another thing, but this is not as long as the little girl's transmission. This is from someone that is on Facebook. I'm friends with Bernard Gunter. I'm not sure where he's at. His wife just got, I think, naturalized as a citizen here, but he's part of the group with Laura Eisenhower, which is Dwight D's great-granddaughter, and different ones that do things. But he's very grounded in his perception of reality, and yet he does not look away from the dark. And I've always said this: you can't give away something you don't know. And a lot of people don't want to see or know about the dark. They don't want to. They just don't want to know about things. They don't want to see it. They don't. But you can't give away something you don't own. It just doesn't work. And when you're not doing that, it's like you're in ignorance of some part of the I am presence, and that's really not where we want to be. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to go immerse yourselves in trauma drama. I'm not suggesting that at all, and that's not what we came here to do. We did come here to, I think, embody our highest potentiality and live by example, as Yeshua, did with everything. But okay, so I'm going to go through this from Bernard really quick, because it really, a lot of your questions that you've had before, actually, I think this is the one I was thinking about that's probably going to answer maybe some of the last question that none of us could remember, whoever it was that articulated that before we started the recording. Okay, so, and it's very, this is, I mean, he is speaking to the immediacy of this particular moment, so it's very pertinent right now. So I'll try to make it quick and not speak. I'll try to speak as fast as I can, but clearly and concisely to not, have it. Okay, so here we go. 109 people died in the Texas flood, including 27 children and counting. P. Diddy has been acquitted on most charges of sex trafficking. Epstein committed suicide. There's no apparent client list and no follow-up investigation. Children are being trafficked and raped every single day by elite pedophiles. Some of them are celebrities and musicians you look up to and admire. I explored this topic 20 years ago already, and I can tell you that Epstein is just the tip of the iceberg. It is so dark that I don't feel the collective level of consciousness is even ready to see or face it. There is truth in that. As long as you haven't faced your own darkness and evil within, you won't be able to handle evil that is beyond your comprehension. On a collective level, we're not ready to face certain aspects of reality, even though your ego may protest and say, we are ready. But God doesn't work that way. It's one of the metaphysical reasons why it seems that evil gets away with it. But no one gets away with anything. Even your own dark thoughts and projections will come back around at some point, according to the occult law of rebound, in this life, in the afterlife, or the next life. At the same time, we all try to find someone to blame in the physical world based on our biases, projections, assumptions, and desperation. We all tend to do it, myself included. It's a mechanical reaction. Being in the unknown evokes fear, so we latch on to blame. We want someone to be accountable for the darkness and tragedies we witness. We mean well. We can blame the state of Texas for not preparing for and preventing the flood, or you could blame yet another man-made natural disaster. You can blame Trump, Patel, Bondi, the FBI, the DOJ, or whoever for halting the Epstein investigation. Or you can stand on your high horse of self-importance and tell others, I told you so, Trump is one of them, as if you know what's really going on. No one knows. But we often grasp for blame while being unaware of other forces that operate and govern the universe. I'm not speaking of hostile forces here, but cosmic forces, forces of nature, karmic forces, elemental forces. They affect us, nature, and the collective in ways we are completely unaware of. And if y'all go back, I have said these things many times, but this guy's articulating it perfectly with this. So he says, they stretch over lifetimes, dimensions, and ages. In our mental prison and 5 sense limitation, it feels like an inverted world. I've said that. You may ask, where is the justice, the accountability, the retribution, the arrests? Where is God in all this? Why do innocent children die on a camping trip while raping pedophiles seemingly get away with it and keep living an elitist life and material riches? I gave up on the idea of all the bad guys would be arrested a long time ago, around 2010, after realizing the truth about 9/11 would never come out. And it also hasn't, still. Yes, I have hopes here and there, like any human, that have been in the black pill territory and in hopium. Of course, everybody hopes for something and never works. But then he says, but again, I realize this is not how reality works. It's not a Hollywood film with a simple script and a happy ending, nor is it a bad ending if evil wins, evil in quotes. Evil doesn't get away with it, even if it appears so. It just doesn't work the way we think or want it to. God's will does not act according to human morality or human judgment. The law of karma, denied and misunderstood by many, works in mysterious and complex, impersonal ways over lifetimes and ages beyond the grasp of the surface of the mind. Now, this spoke to me, and it really just kind of re-emphasized what I've already known, like with regards to my sister's circumstantial death. It's like it goes, it's lifetimes. People kill each other off, this one, that one, accidents here, there. There's always a balance. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. everything is always in balance. And that's one thing Spirit's always made clear to me. So anyway, but he goes on to say, we are so limited in our perception. We do not fully understand death or the process of dying. We fear death. We see death all around us, and we grieve and we mourn when our loved ones die. We try to slow down or avoid aging with biohacking, Botox, and cosmetic surgeries, but none of us can escape death. Even in the materialistic transhumanists will face a rude awakening in trying to become physically immortal. At the same time, we never truly face death. We don't make the effort to understand the one thing no human can escape, to look beyond death and ask what happens afterwards, not based on religious dogma that tells you the lie of a judging God. There is a consistent afterlife process across all esoteric traditions, each describing in its own way. And I think that part of this is talking about, if you go into it deeper, this would actually, I think, clarify what I've just said about us being in a bardo state, where we have to go back through recapitulation of our own life, because there's this whole process that we go through, except I think we're doing it alive while we're here rather than going through the physical death. And I'm not saying we're not going to physically die at some point. I do think that we're shifting our reality, and I think that the energy, because of when Neptune and Saturn get back here in 160 years for Neptune, but next February, I think that the Maya, the illusion that we're living in, is going to shift. I think the dynamics that make up our reality are going to be shifted in such a way that our potentiality for the way we act in our world and in the new illusion, I think it's going to shift dramatically. Now we'll see how that works. This guy talks about talking about the esoteric traditions. He talks about, be it the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, Steiner's Cosmology on Afterlife, the others. Christianity is one of the biggest distorted religions. The Bible is one of the most corrupted and audited texts, or edited texts. There's a saying, if God wrote the Bible, then the devil edited it. And it's really true. It's kind of like if an eye for an eye, everybody would be blind, But he talks about one of the biggest corruptions of the Bible was the removal of incarnation and the process of karma and the soul evolution over times. In esoteric Christianity, before religion, reincarnation, and soul evolution over lifetimes, according to the universal law of karma, was part of the tradition and teaching. It says, now, according to the Bible, you're born in sin and you die and you're judged by God and you go to heaven or hell along with some savior program. And that's really true. And I don't think you can go, be dipped in a river and all of a sudden, all your sins are washed away. I don't think it works that way. And now he says you're brainwashed, dogmatic Christians, telling you that reincarnation is some New Age nonsense. Well, if that's, where they want to be and they're comfortable, I guess that's where they'll have to go. I do think people are going to be in for a rude awakening as we go through these huge shifts. Then he says on the other side of the delusional coin, you have the reincarnation as a trap. The Earth is a prison planet, black pill narrative, and that's the real inversion, he says. The corruption of spirituality and how billions believe in a book as the literal world of God, the world of God. Some people I work with the deceased and help them transition. What if I told you that many deaths that seem tragic accidents were planned on a soul level before incarnation? I just was talking about that with my sister. Maybe you laugh at me or them as they report being in contact with the deceased. We still need to grieve, honor the dead, and feel all feelings. This is not some New Age intellectual cop-out saying it's just karma. Death doesn't create a clean slate either, nor does rest after death until each soul has gone through the necessary process of to learn its lessons and prepare for the next incarnation. All of it unfolds according to divine laws that are incomprehensible to the ego personality. And it's interesting he words it like that because there's so many things that even though I suggest something here, I always say, that's my perception of this particular moment of time. Is it an eternal truth, whatever I've mentioned, or is it a momentary truth? And I think that's one of the most specific things that Spirit always presents to me when discussing any of this stuff. Because, when you go into really deeply into the field, there's, again, no separation, which means there's no time separation. There's no, and our minds cannot go here. Only your heart can attempt to fall into this, and then you let the oneness speak to you. Because if your mind attempts to try to make sense of any of it, it's like Judith used to always tell us, when you'd say, "Oh, I think this," and she would say, "That's nice. Now go deeper," or we just can't. Our mind cannot comprehend. Anyway, so he goes on, not much more. He says, in these difficult times, allow yourself to feel all feelings and pray, but don't pray for a specific outcome. How many times have I said that? Pray for surrender to the divine and alignment with God's will. Pray for the dead for a successful and peaceful transition, and let them go. Grieve, but don't make the grieving process about you. It can keep their soul from properly transitioning, and that's true. This is what you will carry with you through any perceived hardship. Sometimes it helps turning off the news. Most things are beyond your control. Godspeed, Bernard Gunter. So I found it interesting that he wrote that specifically like this today. He just put this out yesterday. I think we're going to find a lot more very grounded, kind of prophetic writing, things that are going to feel really deep. I think they're going to be meaningful. I think they're going to go right through, straight through to the core of people. I think that we're going to have so many distortions and realities and timelines fall apart, especially because of this Neptune-Saturn going back into Pisces, back and forth to Aries. It's almost like any timelines that are left, that we're going to go back and revisit them for the rest of this year, but they're going to totally cease to exist when Saturn of time and Neptune, the dream and reality, finally come completely into Aries next, I guess it's January and February. By middle of February, those particular things have shifted. And I really think that that's when the old false reality mainly falls away. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have people that still are trying to create in the old cause-effect reality. I don't know what it'll mean. I don't want to project a value because, again, that would be me projecting a potential limitation holding humanity back. If I were to even put out into the field that I would suggest that all of humanity won't be suggested by then. Do you see how powerful this is? I can't even catch myself and say, whoop, no, I don't want to say that, because would that place a limitation in the field? Now, you get 8 billion people around the world that if everybody was to let go and no longer project their perceived value, a limiting belief reality onto the world, if everybody was to let go of doing that, we would all be co-creating in an infinite potentiality of creation system. And I know that's a lot for the mind to just take in. I could just feel it going, whoa, that's a big one. That is a big one. That's how much power we have. Imagine that you could shift every single human mind to let go of the mind and their perception of reality and just jump in oceanic presence and let spirit take them where their higher soul wants them to go. It's kind of like we think we know best, but do we? And if we keep making certain decisions, and you keep getting the same brick wall that you go up against, or the same problem, or the same whatever, it's like you're co-creating that, because we are our own worst enemy. Or are we? I don't know. It's something I bring it up as personal observation. All I can do is lead anyone into a personal observation. If it doesn't fit for you, put it in the trash. If it takes you into your next level of a place where you can make a jump, awesome. Then my job is done for that moment of time. And really, that's all we're doing, is waking each other up in those particular ways all the time. It's so funny. I've just looked back on the call, 13 attendees still. We can't make this stuff up. So there's that. Another thing that Spirit asked me to bring up again, and I've actually been reading this in several other places, but Spirit was talking, and I've mentioned this before, it's about perceived betrayal. And we're going to have a lot of that from now all the way until February next year. As false timelines and false realities fall away, the relationships that we have, the dynamics that hold the relationships together, whatever those are, if they're built in an old 3D timeline, if they're built in our old karmic energies that brought us together with whoever those people were. Could be your family, siblings, work, all the same stuff I've always talked about. No matter who is in your life as an experience, experientially, you're clearing that up between now and next February. No matter what it looks like in form, you may make choices yourself to either leave relationships, shift relationships, bring in new boundaries. You and everyone on the planet, we're going to go through this perception of betrayal. And I want to go into this yet one more time. I mean, many of you have already heard this, but Spirit says one more time, put it in there. What is betrayal? If you're looking at any circumstance and the person you think has betrayed you, that's one perception of the reality. The other person you feel is betraying you has another perception of reality. They may feel like you've betrayed them in some way. At the end of the day, if you're carrying anything where you're perceiving a betrayal, you have to look into yourself. What created the dynamic? What created the relationship? I don't care who it is. It can be your children. It can be your grandparents, your family. Somebody in your community, your politicians, especially politicians. Oh, my God. People are really going to go deep down the rabbit hole with perception of betrayal regarding Donald Trump, Joe Biden. Any political person is going to be perceived that they have betrayed their constituents. I don't care what country it is. Everyone, as people wake up individually, they're going to feel betrayed. Now, when you're feeling the betrayal, go in, who betrayed who? Now, part of this, they're in there because they got voted in, supposedly. And I don't think the voting system is all, I think that's a whole other topic. But whether the voting system is accurate and reasonable and trustworthy or not, whoever goes and casts a vote energetically puts a vote in. So you either voted for one party or the other party. By doing so, you separated, you made a choice of choosing one energy over another energy, which polarizes you either toward one group or another group. That's separation. There's no separation. Democratic Party, Republican Party, Tories or whatever else in England. I mean, it doesn't matter what country around this blue ball we're in, all democracies are set up the same way. And they're set up theoretically so that everybody has a say, and yet they fail. They fail because whoever gets in has already been bought, sold, and paid for. Because every politician is going to, they're in the good old boy network, they do what they're told. They will attempt to give a vision that they're following their constituents and doing what's best for constituents, and in some cases that can be the case. In bigger cases, when you go deeper and follow the money trail, they're following whatever big business tells them to do. All law is written to protect all of the people at the top. And for everybody else at the bottom, you're pulled into litigation. What does litigation do? It bankrupts you. You're either paying out huge attorney fees to fight for or against whatever it is you don't like in the world. There's only two people that make money in this world. It's attorneys. Well, I would say and doctors too, but doctors can be pulled in litigation too. But as a general rule, and the big business owners at the top, small business owners get swallowed up. And that's been the old function. Now, what I'm not sure of is what this is going to look like in the world of form, as all the structures continually shift and change. As we talked about before, Pluto in Capricorn from 2008 until November last year was about dissolving structures. Pluto in Aquarius for 20 years. We've been going it through this whole year since November. Aquarius is the water bearer. It's an air sign as a function in astrology, but to me it feels like water. Pluto in Aquarius, all this water. Where's the water coming from? Water is dissolving. It dissolves structure. It dissolves earth. It dissolves all this stuff. It's being amped up. You've got Uranus on this first degree of Aries, a hot fire, energy. Oh, I'm sorry, not Uranus. Uranus is in Gemini. Oh, Uranus is in the 29th degree of Gemini. So it's shocking, catastrophic, all these kinds of things that it tries to make its way into Cancer. That's why we've got all this really heavy, awful energy. Not awful. It's just, I hate to you can't place value on things. It certainly is transformative. Let's just say that. But Pisces, was all about the water. And that's, of course, where Saturn and Neptune were for the last several years. But they're going to go back into Pisces, with the July 4th, I think, the one Saturn went, and now Neptune's going to go, coming up. When they go back into Pisces, I think the rest of this year, you're going to find water beyond. I mean, I hate to make that as a suggestion, but if people in the outer world of form are still co-creating in the lower reality, they're going to use water as destruction. I do think that we're going to have things that happen in the seas. I mean, Pam Gregory's talked about this a lot. Several astrologers have. But there's going to be a lot of transformative energy around sea life, water, how water is utilized, healing water, working with water on a deep molecular level. We are 70% water. And again, all these going back into Pisces, that's going to shift that. Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is transformation. At the beginning, first couple, 3 degrees of Aquarius. So everything aspecting that, but it's aspecting in a good way when it's in Aries. When it goes back into Capricorn, it's going to be an out-of-sign sextile, which some astrologers say that doesn't matter. Some people say an out-of-sign aspect makes a more difficult aspect, even if it's a more positive aspect, because it's in the others. I don't know how that works. I'm not going to project a value onto it. I will say it's just going to be very challenging when Saturn and Neptune are back at the end of Pisces, because they're also going to be on the anaretic degree of 29 degrees. Usually you have cataclysmic things. It's just going to be a lot. It's also at the end of the zodiac, which is at the end of life. It's at the end of, so we're going to have all of these death and rebirth themes. They're going to just come up and they're going to slap us in the face. It's the other reason I feel like it's going to function as an individual and collective bardo state. We're going to be taken into the core of who we are individually and collectively to literally root out any and all things that don't go forward into the new creation. So, again, I don't want to place a value necessarily on what any of that looks like. If you look at traditional astrology and interpretation, those are very challenging aspects. We don't have to let it be something that's detrimental to us, but yet we cannot get caught up and pulled into the trauma drama storylines. It doesn't have to play out that badly, potentially. We'll see how it all works out. So, but again, the third thing, Spirit told me, the betrayal. So, especially with the political world, you're going to feel like your politicians have betrayed you on the local level, state level, national level. But who betrayed who? If you put energy into those people, then you were holding them up and you are participating in holding up the politicians and wherever they are, good, bad, or ugly. It's not about good, bad, or ugly. Look at the results, though. Whatever the outcome is that is happening nationally, statewide, citywide, whatever, local, county, whatever. If you're not happy with those results, go in, and this is how we get to play. Go in on the make-believe level. Go in and talk to the world, the unseen world. You work with Spirit. You work with Mother, Father, God. You work with all of the elemental kingdoms. You work with the Ascended Masters. You work with the Elohim Builders of Form. And again, Bernard Gunter said it, and I've said this all the time. Don't go in with an outcome. We don't know what's best for us because we're living in limitation. Spirit can deliver us so much higher than we can perceive of reality. Go to the highest potentiality of anything you could even dream, and then ask Spirit to take it even above that. Most people have been dumbed down and away from that type of divine creation. We are powerful creators. You are a powerful creator. Do you see the difference in that? And there's only a slight shift. If I had not taken you to that as a potential, you may not have ever thought about that. The only reason I'm thinking about it is because Spirit's taking me into it. That's where I'm supposedly living at in these days. Although sometimes I don't feel like I'm in much of a wild divinely creation, and yet I am. Because every time as long as I go on to the next slided step, everything is flowing pretty well for me, even though it's very challenging. Still, small, minute challenges between, my father and the two aunts and caregiving and what does this look like? Do I stay in this house? Do I go move to my dad's house? Do I keep both houses? Do I live in both houses? Do I spend some time at dad's, spend some time It's a mess. I don't know. And I have to just stay in the moment for every single day and do whatever my heart calls me to do. I can't go into all that. I mean, I've made spreadsheets between, should I, in my home, I've got to fix up all these things. In his home, I've got to fix up all these things. And you compare the financials, and Spirit kind of like, I'll be sitting there and Spirit kind of like looks down, but there's no looking, they're just there. And I feel like this kind of giggling like, bless your heart, it's like you're so worried about this and that. Does it really matter at the end of the day? You can't take any with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And it changes the perception of reality. And then I get taken into this material world that I've created and say, do I need that? Do I really need that? And then I go into the next part and say, am I living in limitation of my highest expression because I'm not trapped. Part of it's a trap, but let's just say tied down by the material densification. And then Spirit says, what if you let go of all of it and you live in complete freedom? And I'm like, whoa. So I myself am going through huge metamorphosis. And I know many people that have just given up all the material world, and then they'll say they've never had the freedom like that in their entire life. Most people are scared to death of pure freedom. Judith and I talked about that several times. What does that look like to not be taken on, so deeply into the material world and the densification of it all. And especially when you're holding on to the material world of your family, your ancestors, all these things, because there's an energy that's tied to all of that. I have a lot of family, inheritance stuff. I mean, I've got, a bedroom suit from my grandparents in there from 1940, whatever, when they got married, my mom's parents. There's just all this stuff with the history. It's like, do I really need that? I've always kept it because I've always been tied to history, but it's like, what happens if I let these things go? These are the deep questions that we're being asked to take ourselves into. How much is your stuff holding you back? How much are certain relationships holding you back? All the structures. Full moon in Capricorn what happened this afternoon. This moon is taking us into literally a recapitulation of taking stock of everything in your life. Does it stay or does it go? And this is the moment when you can gain real and true clarity. This is kind of this is the really detailed work in creating your new future, in creating for next year, to really unencumber yourself from anything that keeps you in limitation. Okay, well, I didn't have any clue where any of this was going to go, but there it is. We're about an hour and a half, 9:35. So I feel like that's covered the bulk of the base for most everything Spirit wanted to go through. Again, I mean, imagine, that little girl, that was taken in with Yeshua and having conversation. I sit here and have conversations with Yeshua all the time. I have conversations with Mother, Father, God all the time. It's one thing I just started doing, I guess, hanging around Judith for years. When she took me into the field, there's no separation. When you start having conversations with the unseen world and then you get met, again, I go back to that time when I was stuck in a ditch with a mower on Easter Sunday, and I'm like, I just lifted my hands. I was like, Lord, take care of this. God, take care of this. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. Within 5 minutes, I was pulled out in 1 minute. It was an immediate response. And I'm telling you, it's all a frequency. When you are in total divine flow of your life, even the most mundane things here will totally line up to assist you in creating a flowing, meaningful, and loving reality. So, yeah. Okay, I think that's a perfect place to leave it for the observation part of what's going on in the world, and we will just go into meditation. We'll go do some deep healing work. I know some of you have said that life is flowing really good. When we first got on the call, things are good. And then some of you are going through the detox. We're all over the map on this. I mean, we really are. And some of you may not be in the detox yet, but you may be taken into it as we go through this energy. I mean, you just never know where it's going to be. The other part to this, and Bernard had talked about it in his thing, and I've always talked about this, and Jude's talked about it all these years. Whatever illness you're in, the disease pattern, whatever sickness, all it is whatever's happening in the body that's either a stuck place, energy that's not flowing, a place you have not gone and met yourself. It could be ancient. It doesn't have to be a current cause-effect reality thing. It can just be really deep ancient things that you've carried for a long time, and it's deep in the cellular level of your body. And it's just now having to be addressed to be able to come forth and move out so that you go into the higher frequencies. You can't go into the higher frequencies, when you're still carrying density of some sort. Or there may be something in your life. Many of us on the call are older. That there can be places where we've, thought, I'm going to deal with that later. And you may even think about it from a karmic standpoint and say, ooh, I wish I hadn't done that. But then you don't really address it. And then, again, everything has to balance out. And I think that Bernard had said it, and I've said this so many times as well. It's like everything maintains a balance for ourselves individually as soul expressions, but also within the collective. At the same time, when we're making conscious decisions, when we shift ourselves, we shift the field around us. And the more conscious work we can do, I honestly feel we can lessen the densification that we're carrying so that we don't necessarily bring in awful karmic circumstances to have to clear and balance out an energy, not even in this lifetime, but all lifetimes. Because we're bringing ourselves into the immediacy of a moment. So in that point, in that context, the time-space continuum doesn't exist. All of our multiple lifetimes would not. They're all existent in one moment of time. So if that's the case, then whatever we're experiencing is balancing out for everything we've ever done since the fall of man, really, in truth. And that's, I don't know, different esoteric teachings talk about different time periods from when that was, cataclysmic events, whatever. It could be really 24,000 years because we're closing down the Kali Yuga age. I don't remember all the technical terms about Kali, what that means, and the yugas are ages, thousands of year periods, but we're closing down 24,000 years. But we've been doing that for, God, potentially, over 100 years. It's a time period. It's not something that happens at just one moment of time, I don't think. It's also why I think in the last video, the last telecall we did, I may have mentioned where I feel like, this December 2025, where all the planets are converging at the end of December to go into Capricorn next January with this big convergence. It's 13 years after the previous, what they thought to be the end of the Mayan calendar, 12/21 of 2012. Yeah. But I think here, 13 years later, I think this is going to be the end of the Maya, of the illusion. I think this is the end of the Mayan calendar, and I think it resets. And I don't know what that looks like. I think it's extremely exciting. I think the potentials are just off the charts on what could be created. I think it's off the charts on the way the energy is going to come in and work with us. And it really may be when the event happens, when we take in so much cosmic light, and everything goes in through the galactic center. I think I remember, if you didn't hear that, you might want to go back and re-listen to the last telecall, because I talked about how everything was going through the galactic center before going to the convergence in the middle of Capricorn, which, interestingly enough, that convergence will happen right around this degree, like around the first or second week of January this coming year, right before Saturn and Neptune both come back into Aries to create the new vision. Like Ann Ortley says, you can't make this stuff up in astrology. It's so funny. Anyway, okay, well let's go into this. And so if you're not in your easy chair recliners, or laid out on your couch, or laid out in the bed, find your happy place and get still, and let's go in and really get ready to do some quantum shifting for ourselves. Bobette had already said when she got on, she's got a major cough, lots of shifting she's doing. So let's keep Bobette kind of propped up there. And again, no projection, but just allowing for the highest potentiality of release. And we'll do that for Bobette and every single one of us. Because, even if we're feeling great, I assure you there's places in us that still need shifting. I know I do. But we'll certainly, pop Bobette up in there. And anybody just throw their names in the ring. Just pull them into your heart and say, please add people in. And in truth, we're adding in all 8 billion people on the planet. That's the way I always do it. So, and because we put that out in the world, it has to reflect back to us. It cannot not. That's the law of cosmic law. You put it out, it has to come back to you. And I think it's one reason that as our group, we've been so, in a place where we're able to keep this going and going. And again, I'm so appreciative for every single one of y'all, that we've been able to create this and keep it going. Because there's something about consistency that really is important when we're doing any of this kind of work. It's one of the reasons why the religions always had people, you got to go to church every Sunday, Sunday night, Wednesdays. There's something about consistency, when you're creating in belief systems and in the magical world and all that. But it also leads to the embodiment. When you have consistent belief, feeling, whatever, you're embodying whatever it is you're creating through the repetition. And that's one reason why they have us in schools. Everything is repetitive. So, okay, we'll just get really still. Let's go in. Just breathe out. Breathe out everything that doesn't work anymore. And just go into a quiet space. So now that you're deeply immersed in the field, just go into your heart, and if there's any place where you're still feeling stuck, or you have something you need answers for, or you just don't know what you need or what you want or where to go. If you have any unprocessed emotions or feelings or thoughts, if there's anything that just doesn't feel right, put this on the cosmic fire and just ask Mother, Father, God, and Saint Germain and the Violet Flame, and the entire company of heaven, all the archangelic kingdoms, the elemental kingdoms, the builders of form, the mighty Elohim builders of form, the 12th golden ray, and the diamond Christ light. Just put it on that fire and just let everything burn. And allow yourself to come out as a phoenix rising up from all of your ashes. Throw everything in to burn away everything that doesn't exist for you anymore. Especially any unprocessed emotions or feelings you've got regarding any situation in your life. If you feel like somebody's done you wrong, or someone feels like, or if you think someone feels like that you've done them wrong, it doesn't matter whose perception. Throw it on the fire. Ask Spirit to dissolve any and all perceived false timelines and false perceptions of betrayal or hurt or misrepresentation, literally anything, and this includes for politicians, for your family, and anything or anyone, any and all circumstances, and not just this lifetime, but for every single nanosecond of our existence throughout the entire time-space continuum, throughout all of cosmic embodiment. That covers the totality of any and all existence as human experience. And for the parts we don't understand, can we allow Spirit to clean and purify anything that goes beyond our human experience, if that is indeed something that exists? Now imagine what just got articulated. Your mind cannot perceive all of what just got articulated. I don't know what most of that would be. My mind can't go there. The wonderful thing is my mind does not have to go there. The cosmic heart of God invites us to go there and say, what if this is true? Then please dissolve that. This goes so far beyond anything and everything in our human, limited conception of reality and perception. And feel that burning away, and any and all connections to that energy are totally dissolved. And you're totally released from any and all soul contracts, so that you can create something anew, something so completely, pristinely new for yourself and for your family and for humanity. Now perceive that we are sitting in that cosmic fire. It doesn't have to hurt us. It doesn't have to burn us. And yet it's going to totally incinerate any and all distortions, any and all tentacles that have attempted to latch on to us, to pull down our energy field. We can request absolute, complete disintegration of anything that does not serve our highest potentiality and divine happiness and creation and existence. And we can also request it on behalf of every single other human soul in existence. It doesn't mean that they will be in a place of receiving it, but we can certainly put in the request for it. According to their soul contracts, not to be superseded by us, but we can certainly put in the request for the highest potentiality of healing for every single man, woman, and child, and every sentient being and non-sentient being. To heal for the whole field. And just sit in that and envision the cosmic fire dissolving it. Not that it hurts you and not that it burns you. Cosmic fire doesn't work that particular way. But it can come in as a wildfire and just dissolve everything that no longer serves you. Okay, everybody, this was a really quick, immediate shift into this field today. And the energy is so much more immediate now. You're welcome to stay on as long as you want in this energy, and you're certainly encouraged to allow it to just continue to permeate. But thank you all again for coming in. And until next time, just really try to ground this energy and allow Spirit to speak with you with regards to what stays in your life and what goes. That's really what this moon is about. Grounding what's going to be with you in physicality as you went into your emotional body with the last moon cycle. This is about our structures. What's in your heart with regards to structures? What's going to give structure to your life? And what needs to be dissolved? And just allow Spirit to work with you with that. So, eternal love and infinite blessings to all of you.